Hello Knockouts, Tonya TKO here, and I am a self-love specialist from TonyaTKO.com. I help you learn how to love yourself and each other. On this channel we use viral video topics as teachable moments in our own lives. So listen, we're going to be talking about Malik Yoba today. Malik Yoba says he's attracted to trans women, and the internet is going wild. I'm going to read his statement for you. Remember, we talked the other day about the guy who was being harassed outside of a convenience store who ultimately took his life. So Malik posted this on his page, and so listen. He says, "Attention black and all men. This is not okay!" Exclamation, 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 exclamation. This video is another heartbreaking example of the homophobia, transphobia, hatred, and hypocrisy we as black folks, black men in particular, have to name, face, and call out and do the work to heal! Exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. All right. This is exactly why I will be at some sort of workshop called Love Plus Trauma, the Trans Experience, in September. You can go see his Instagram page for all of the details on that. His name was Maurice Reese Willoughby, a 20-year-old baby who killed himself from an apparent drug overdose after his girlfriend left him due to abuse. Clearly, as evidenced in this video, this young man was confident in his choice to love who he loved, but the uninformed young men around him haven't been taught by us that love is love and acceptance of trans love is okay, and bullying has nothing to do with masculinity or heterosexual behavior. Ultimately, his mental and emotional health was not intact enough, and the fragility of his life as he saw it was too much to bear. Oftentimes, this type of shame and ridicule can lead to the murders of women of the trans experience. I love how he says of the trans experience. I love that. I love how he says of the trans experience. I love that. Anyway, let's go forward. Let's go forward. Not okay! Exclamation, exclamation. Clearly, he didn't get the support of his peers who think that toxicity equals masculinity and humanity. I've been seeing people bashing him. From what it is that I know about cisgender, cisgender simply means that you identify as the gender you were born as. And heterosexual means that you are attracted to people of the opposite sex. So now when it comes to women who have the trans experience, I guess it really boils down onto whether or not we believe that trans people are the gender that they feel in their heart, soul, spirit, mind, body, wherever it is that they feel it, that has them identify with the gender that they identify with. And so we have to learn, how do we make the world a comfortable place for all of us? You know what I mean? And it's like, let's try to understand other people's experience. And we are being confronted with a new way of thought, a new way of thinking, of being. And it's like, when we think about this, because listen, trans people are here and they ain't going nowhere. You hear what I'm saying? So it's like, when you think about who it is that you are, do you want to be on the right side of history? Or do you want to still hold on to these archaic, old-time conservative ideals that are harming other people who are saying, listen, I have a right to exist? I think that this is very brave of Malik Yoba. Listen, before I get out of here, let me just say this. I believe that this is the way that the world is going. I believe that we are heading towards a realm where we are attracted to a person's soul, where we're attracted to what's going on the inside, that vibration that they have. And so regardless of how it is that they were born, what it is that you see on the outside, because I wonder how many of us would have already been settled down already if we didn't put so much emphasis on what it is that we see on the outside. What if a person is in a relationship with a trans person and they never really come into contact with the penis at all? What if they just penetrate from behind, right? And The penis is really kind of like an elongated clitoris. The penis is really kind of like an elongated clitoris. You know what? I think that we are more alike than we know. Because what is the size? This person may not even have a big I know I'm being inappropriate, but this person may not even have a big penis. You know what I mean? They may have like a small penis. What about women who have elongated clitorises? What feeling do we have about them? Are they male? Are they female? Is it the womb? So that a person who has a womb is then considered female. But what about little girls who were born without a womb or who were born sterile? Okay? What makes a woman a woman? Because if a penis is just an elongated clitoris and the person is feminine and exudes the essence and aura of femininity, then isn't that, because like, even though I like men, I cannot picture myself being intimate with a trans woman because of the whole femininity thing. Even with the penis, I just can't picture myself like sucking on a penis. Like, I can't picture that, because to me it would be like sucking on an elongated clit. This video has become highly inappropriate. I know it's not going to be monetized, but that's okay, because I felt like this was a conversation that we needed to have. So basically, I did a video with talking about Malik Yoba and how Malik Yoba has come out and said that he is trans attracted. He's attracted to trans women. And the comments that I was receiving on the live, I was really surprised by my knockouts. I can only hope that the people who were on my, like some of the names I have not seen before. So I can, there were 200 people on that broadcast. So I can just hope that the people who were there were not my knockouts, because I would hope that my knockouts are more open-minded, that my knockouts are more loving of people, because they were like going off about how trans women are not women, etc., and just going off. And I'm like, really, God, I'm really confused. I turn on the phone lines because right now I'm not ready to come into contact with any of you all right now, because I'm so disappointed. I wonder what it is that we've been doing here for all of these years, that we would sit up here and we would just go off and not even have the conversation. Like, I'm trying to have the conversation with you all. Like, what makes a woman a woman? Is it her femininity? Is it her chromosomes? Is it her uterus? What makes a woman a woman? I'll let you all call in, but I need a moment, because I don't want to snap on anybody. Because right now, I don't need to come into contact with another human being right now. I just need to I need to be able to get into that space. So I'm going to turn on the phone lines, but give me a moment. Let me say what it is that I need to say, right? I don't really see how it takes anything away from us to have enough respect for another human being to say, I'm going to refer to you in the way that you feel most comfortable with me referring to you. It's like you don't own gender. You don't own it. You may have a gender, you may identify as a gender, but you don't get to dictate how other people feel about their gender. You don't get to dictate that. And I am not the best person to speak on this, because I am not well versed on the whole trans experience. I'm not. I'm not the best person. I'm not the most educated person on the trans experience. However, I'm a human being. And I understand that just because we're in the majority doesn't mean that we get to dictate and that we get to, I don't want to say, oppress is not the right word, but deny the humanity of another person, to disenfranchise other people. I don't understand why we can't just live and let live. I don't understand why we can't just live and let live. So Tisha is saying trans women are not women, they are men that want to be women. How is it that you get to decide that? What is it about you that gets to decide how another person identifies? How is it? Tell me. Tell me. I want to know. Because it's like, how does your life, how does your desires or your standards, how does that relate to a completely different human being than you who is living their life separate of you? They're not in your face. They're not requiring anything of you besides respect and human rights. That's it. That's it. That's it. And for you to refer to them how they feel most comfortable being referred to. Judging from the comments that I'm seeing, I am beginning to think that there are some quote unquote cis women who are intimidated by trans women coming onto the scene. I think that there are some of you out there who are intimidated by the irrational way that you can't explain why it is that you refuse to see a person's humanity. I'm beginning to think, yes, I am beginning to think. I'm beginning to think like I don't really see how does it affect you? How does it affect you if a trans woman says I'm a woman? How does it affect you if a trans woman says I'm a woman? How does that affect you? I want to know. How does it affect you? Just knowing that they exist in the world, just knowing that there are men who date them. Okay. You are on the air live with Tonya.
So the reason why I was calling is because I left a comment in the chat, and I actually do work with trans women. I think the issue that people are having with trans women is there's a couple of different issues that are going on. First is gaslighting, especially with your own work with self-help. I'm sure you know what that is, but for the people who don't know what that is, gaslighting is basically when someone tells you that the sky is pink when you know it's blue. So with that being the issue, it's hard for people to accept that a trans woman is a woman because biologically we know that there are differences between men and women, and it's just not debatable. But
Okay.
when we start breaking things down into a conversation where you're saying there's a difference between gender and sexuality, that's when things get muddy. But the problem is that when it comes to the issue of transgenderism, one, in the black community, we have a hard time accepting gay people, which is a huge problem. It forces people underground, that's one. But two, when it comes to transgenders, we have an issue as women because they invade, or not, I shouldn't say invade, that's excessive language, but they end up in female spaces. So what that means is just, things like being able to comfortably use a restroom, things like sports, scholarships that were created specifically for women because there are biological differences. Women are now no longer qualifying for them because trans women are taking those scholarships. So these are legitimate concerns.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I'm
just in the
still
legal
I'm
sense.
still confused as to why we as black people are not able to respect the human rights of other people. How does that relate to
But this is
Caucasians?
but also keep in mind that the transgender issue is a tricky issue because in order for you to respect someone else's human rights, you have to deny your own. So this goes
How?
back to gaslighting.
How?
Because if you are saying to me that I, as a biological woman, there's nothing that separates me from a trans woman. Nothing. Nothing. There's nothing that makes us different. That means I also have to deny biological reality. Perfect example, the denial of human rights when it comes to trans people, it actually shows up once again in a legal sense because, as I said, you can look it up, that was recently shut down because it refused to admit a trans woman. So, as you can see, in favoring that one person's human rights, an entire host of battered women, including black women, were denied a safe space for them to be treated and seek help. Do you see what I mean? It seems to be an issue of human rights when it favors a more marginalized group, and there will always and with the this and it seems like the discussion around trans people always end up being the more marginalized group as opposed to Black people. So
I'm
that's
still
why they will always take
confused.
precedent over us.
Okay, when you say take precedent, I'm confused as to, so basically what you're saying is if I give this person this right, it takes away from my right.
In certain regards, yes, and in certain regards, no. This is what trans people are saying. I work with them. They don't believe that they should have a separate category. They don't believe there should be a separate category because they are women. So you
Okay.
can't even argue that. You can't even debate that issue. So right off the bat, I've quite literally worked and known trans women in my own life who have heard the very same suggestion that you've made, that there should be a separate category, and they have said this is a form of segregation. You are
Yeah, well,
basically
you know
saying
what?
trans women are not women, and it is a form of oppression. This is what they literally said to me.
Right. I hear what it is that you're saying, and it sounds like you're saying that if we allow transgender women to identify as women, then we will, one, no longer be able to compete in sports. Two, we may not be able to have the resources afforded to us from the state and the government in terms of battered women's shelter, as well as some other spaces unknown to us right now. So therefore, we must what? What is the solution?
Yes, absolutely. The problem with the solution, and this is why it's a complicated issue, is because the solution lies more with trans women. Because when you're tackling gender dysphoria, that is a personal issue. I cannot tell you how to feel about yourself. All I can do is respect your right as a human being. But when your right as a human being denounces my right as a human being, that's where there's a conflict. And that's why the solution is not easy, and that's why it's a complicated issue. What I'm seeing happening is there's an aggressive push for social justice and social activism. And this social activism trumps absolutely everything. It has gotten to the point where you literally cannot disagree with it without being labeled a transphobe or a bigot. There's no conversation that can be had. You disagreeing says that you are a hateful person. Like, that doesn't even make sense. And even when you bring up facts, people get upset and they say, well, how does this impose actual evidence, that even evidence in my own life that this is a problem, and you're still labeled a hateful person because you
Yeah,
won't
well,
shut up and go along with it.
I'm listening to what it is that you're saying, and I find it a little disturbing that you work with transgender people and you harbor these ideas about how they're taking something away from you, how 0.01% of the population is taking something from you.
But I can't list actual examples.
I'm sorry?
These are actual examples.
Okay. And so there was a woman's shelter, and there was a transgender woman who was being battered, and they wouldn't allow the transgender woman into the shelter. Why? Why?
Okay, so you've had opinions and criticisms of black men in the black community and their behavior, and even the guy who, was boasting about his 9-month pregnant wife, still working. You still have criticism, but that does not take away from your ability to see humanity in them, in us. That does not take away from your ability to see them as human beings. That does not take away from your respect for the black community. You can be critical without being judgmental and condemning an entire group of people and saying, I hate you. To sit back and
That's not a good
that you
example.
can't criticize anything.
Thank you so much for calling in. We appreciate you calling and discussing. There were a lot of people in the audience who felt what you were saying, so you were able to articulate a lot of their points of view. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
So I just wanted to come out really quickly to continue the trans woman conversation. And while I've been driving back and forth, I've had a chance and an opportunity to listen to other black female vloggers speak about the trans issue. And so this is where I think a lot of us are sectioning off, like how a road splits. And in the last call-in video that I did, the way that the women were behaving I said that I felt that a lot of you were threatened by trans women. And some of you felt offended by that. But I'm sitting here thinking, and I'm thinking, and I'm thinking, why is it that women are so angry at trans women, bio women, cis women, whatever you want to call us, right? Why are we so angry at trans women? Like, this is our space. You can't be in our space. When on the flip side, you don't see the same anger and vitriol coming from men about trans men. Have you seen any podcast about men being so up in arms, angry, like, you cannot be in male spaces. This is a safe space. And so Celeste is saying trans women are men with mental health issues and breast implants. It's more than just something theoretical. The brain of a transgender person is literally physically different than the brain of a bio man or a bio woman. You know that the male brain and the female brain are different. Women have higher intuitive centers, and men's brains are different, right? And the trans brain is right in the middle. So it's not like this is just a mental health issue that a person who is trans is like, oh, this is all in my mind. I don't want these breasts, or I do want breasts. It's a lot different than that. And a lot of this pushback I see coming from women, from bio women. And I'm wondering, why is it that bio women are so offended, so offensive about this, when on the flip side, right, we don't see men having the same reaction? Why? And so April is saying, I find it strange that once again men are able to dictate how women should think and feel. Who is dictating what? If you're having a conversation, who's dictating what? I'm going to tell you two things that are going on, right? So I'm getting contacted by a lot of trans women who are thanking me for being an advocate, right? And for being a voice, etc. And and so I wouldn't necessarily consider myself to be an advocate, a trans advocate, right? Because I am a human advocate. I advocate for the humanity of people, for people to love themselves and each other. And so it just so happens that, that we have a minority of a minority, which are trans women and trans men, the whole trans community. And I'm just thinking to myself, black women want, because I also have black women who are coming out who are like, oh, Tonya, I thought you were an advocate for black women. How dare you do this? How dare you talk about this, right? And I'm like, what is it that made you think that I was an advocate for black women? I wouldn't consider myself to be an advocate. I feel like my thing is blurry. All right. So as I was saying, I happen to be a black woman, and I make content because I feel like, there's a lot of advocacy that needs to happen in the black community, and I advocate for black women who are the underdogs in certain situations to be able to rise up, to love themselves, to gain the esteem that they need to be able to advocate for themselves, right? And so it's like, it was all fine and dandy when we were making these topics, about hypergamy and really knowing your worth, etc., and wanting black men to hear. And then, we have so many black men who will come out and be like, oh, you hate men, and they don't want to listen. And the black women are like, oh, they don't want to hear us, this, that, and the other. But then on the flip side, when we have a minority of a minority, now all of a sudden we're the ones that don't want to listen. We don't want to hear. We don't even want to hear them out and hear what it is that they're saying. We don't want to get on the same page, right? And so Jazzy is saying, what issues do trans women help actual women with? You know, I think that I think it's ignorant to expect a minority of a minority to be somehow helping the majority when that minority themselves are still subjugated and disenfranchised. I think that that's ignorant, and I think that we're expecting too much. I think that we are, and I think that, and you know what, a lot of us do this. We place conditions on whether or not we advocate for humanity. We have conditions on whether or not we do what's right. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, if this person is not doing XYZ, I don't need a trans woman to do anything for me. I will still advocate for their humanity. I need them to do nothing. I need them to do nothing. You know, and it's like, there are far too many of us who are like, oh, if you don't do XYZ, then to hell with you, right? And so we do because we want to get. If you're doing because you want to get something in return, you know what? Then, you know what? I read this quote that was like, if you do something for a person expecting something in return, you're not actually doing kindness, you're doing business. People are like, oh, Tonya, how are you going to let these trans women force you into calling yourself a cis woman? Because I don't care nothing about the label of cis woman or bio woman or whatever. It does. Look, you know how Shakespeare said, a rose by any other name still smells as sweet? So calling myself a cis woman or bio woman or any of that, that doesn't do anything to me. I don't care. I don't care. It's like, it doesn't do anything to me to call a trans woman she or her. This is how they want to be referred to. She, her. You know what I'm saying? All right. It doesn't, I personally, the amount of love that I have for myself, that doesn't take anything away from me. It doesn't take anything away from me to show respect to a person in the ways that they would feel respected. And so Carla is saying the truth is that trans women feel like they force their way into bio women's space in a way that trans men can't do with men. No, you know what? You'd be surprised. There are a lot of trans men out there who are in men's spaces, and no one knows that they're trans men. They don't know. They don't know. I think men are just more silent than women. They're just more silent. Like, you would not know a trans man when you see them. You would not know. So basically, this is what's going on. There are two different bloggers on YouTube. One is named For Harriet, and her channel, I would say, feminism, history, politics, black stuff, right? And Chrissy's channel, she's very clear with her marketing. Her marketing is corrective, positive promotion for dark-skinned black women. But I'm just like, why can't we all create the content for our audience? And when our audience wants that type of stuff, they tune in to the place that they know where to find that. So the big argument is over trans women and black women, and whether or not including trans women in the movement is to the benefit of black women or to the detriment thereof. And you know what? I'm going to say this. Let me just get this out of the way. I blame you all. I blame you all, the fans. I blame you all. So I blame you fans for sparking, because part of what For Harriet was saying is that one of the things that I heard her saying was what was so upsetting to her was were the comments that were coming out that people were writing. And you know what? I want to ask you all, because I remember when I spoke on the trans issue months ago, there were a lot of people who were very angry, calling me all sorts of names and all this, everything under the book, pick me, Mamie, all types of stuff, right? Why does it upset you all so much? Why does the whole trans thing upset you all so much that that it'll make you become ugly towards other people. Can somebody explain why it upsets you? We're going to open the phone lines. We're going to be talking about this issue tonight. And then after this, I'm hoping that things will simmer down. Chrissy or Harriet, if you all want to come and do a round table and clear the air, I would love to be able to facilitate something like that. If we could come together and talk and really not let the hoopla of the fans get in the way of what it is that we do here. I would love if we could do that. Right. I think it's important for trans women to identify themselves as trans women. That's what I think. I think it's important. I know that there are other people who don't think that it's important for them too, because they feel that, oh, I am a woman. And from my point of view, I feel that there's a lot of male privilege that comes along with a person who is born and raised into the indoctrination and the socialization of being male. I do think that it's important to be able to respect people's journeys, and I think it's important for trans people to identify themselves as trans, because that is a particular journey that a trans person has gone on that deserves recognition. And I think that it's not self-loving to try to force yourself to be a thing which you are not, and try to force people to identify you as a thing that you feel theoretically, that you feel in your spirit, you feel inside of your heart, but then try to force people to feel, to acknowledge that. I think that it's not very self-loving. All right, so you're on your live with Tonya. What's your name?
Hi, Tonya. My name is Rose.
Hi, Rose.
I'm a trans woman, and I just want to start by saying I do love your content. I started watching you last year. I am aware of the beef between for Harriet and Chrissy. I don't really know Chrissy's point of view too much because I stopped watching her simply due to the transphobia that she has been spewing.
I want to ask you about your relationship with your strength, your physical strength, when you started taking the hormones. What happened to your physical strength? Are you still strong?
I don't consider myself a strong person. I'm not naturally a very strong person. Now, I can't compare myself to a biological woman because I'm not that. I've never been a very athletic person.
Okay,
So
because the muscle fibers between males and females are different, and a man of the same exact size as a woman is still going to be 33% stronger than her. So when you say that there are men who are hitting women behind closed doors, I think there's a tremendous difference between getting into a physical altercation in a female body and getting into a physical altercation in a body where your strength may be comparable to that of the man that you may be with.
But is violence still not violence? Are you saying that because violence happens to a trans body that is more acceptable because of the biological nature that they possess, that we possess?
I'm talking about strength. So if I were in a household where a woman attempted to hit me, I would have a much better fighting chance than in a household where a male tried to hit me. If I were,
that's understandable.
Right. I'm asking you about your level of strength. What happened to your level of strength when you started taking the hormones? Did you lose
It has diminished, and I will say I have been in a domestic violence situation, and even though I am a trans woman, if I was a cisgender woman, it's still a very scary, traumatic situation. And I was in a position where I had to get weaponry in order to fight back. Whether you're trans,
but see, no. See, and I want to be able to have a conversation with you without you doing a monologue, right? Because I really want to find out, because I've heard that part of the reason that trans women advocate to be in sports is because, and be in sports and compete against women, is because once they start taking the hormones, that things happen to their strength. So I'm trying to find out from you, did you find that you could no longer pick up heavy things because when you started taking the hormones?
I will say I can't speak to that, Miss Tonya, simply because I'm not an athletic person. I don't care to be involved in sports.
Okay.
I mean, there are some trans women that are athletic and they care to compete in different sporting arenas with cisgender women. They can come and speak to that, but
no,
I'm
really talking about the domestic violence, because domestic one of the great tragedies of domestic violence between a man and a woman is his extraordinary strength in compared to hers. So not only is a man of the same size, the one third stronger, a man who's even larger is going to be more than 66% stronger than she is. So that's my concern. So when you say something like, oh, as a trans woman, I could also be in a domestic violence situation, but if I had to wager my money on it, I would much rather fight a man as a trans woman than fight a man as a bio woman.
Okay, that's fine. You can say that, but even still, we are still being killed, and that's just.
Well, no. I'm not even talking about. Nobody should listen. Nobody should be killed.
Okay.
Nobody should be killed. And I don't think that anyone should be killed because they're trans.
My point, I just want to make my point. My point is, regardless of whether or not we have better chances, it's still not a fair fight. It's just not.
Why is it not a more fair fight? Why? Tell me why.
Because we are still weaker. At the end of the day, we are still ultimately, regardless of what you feel biologically, yes, hormones do change your biology. They do. And even if we do have a certain level of strength above what you would assume a cisgender woman has, because you also have to keep in mind there are plenty of cisgender women who are I'm sure more stronger than I am. That we legitimately have Olympic champions that are cisgender women who do lift weights, who throw different types of sporting equipment that could outdo me any day in my trans woman body. That's just what it is. And it's just they would probably fare better in a biological in a domestic situation than I would, simply because they're just simply more athletic. And I think that I just want to continue. I love what you do, and I like the fact that you try to get both sides of the situation. But I feel like ultimately, what people I fight more with for Harriet simply because when we all come together and we all get to a point of where we are fighting white supremacy and patriarchy together, we all benefit from it.
So you watch my videos, and are there content creators that are trans that you identify with their content? Is there a space for you in terms of YouTube for you to watch a content creator?
Absolutely.
Okay, so there are trans content creators that you feel inspired by, that are speaking messages that talk to you, etc. Okay, all right. Well, that's so we've been on for 13 minutes, so I'm going to let you go, Rose. Jump in the comments and let me know when you found that, okay? And anybody else who has found that, please, you can put a link below, because I read this last year. All right? Thank you so much, Mama.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, bye. All right, phone lines are open, and listen, trans lives matter, Black trans lives matter, Black lives matter. I don't have any issue saying any of that. You're on the air live with Tonya. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Sunny, and I am a first-time caller, but a long-time fan.
I know my voice is a little bit deeper, but your voice sounds so much like mine.
Right.
Get that then. All right. Sorry. Go for it. So you are a gender studies PhD student.
Yes, indeed. So I study racial, gender, and class inequality, which is misunderstood and usually conceptualized as intersectionality. So obviously I gotta rock with Kim on this one. As far as I know, I've only seen a couple of her videos, but I'm a big fan of Kim's. Chrissy doesn't even show her face. We don't really know a lot about Chrissy, whereas Kim is a lot more public of a figure. But beyond that, the reason that I think that folks are not understanding the importance of context is that they don't perhaps know the history of the Black body in this country. And that, that's so cliche to say, but the fact of the matter is Black people, men, women, were not considered to be fully human. And so the femininity that they're saying, many of Chrissy's supporters are saying that Kim is trying to take away from Black women, because I see this on my Twitter feed, that femininity was taken by white supremacy. Black women were treated the same, if not worse in many ways, than Black men, because they were the ones whose bodies were used to produce labor, literal creators of the American empire. So Black women were long seen as not feminine. So essentially the idea is we need to really be deconstructing and examining our notions of gender and what is it, and this is my question to all the women who are in the chat saying really transphobic and harmful things. What is it that you think you gain by denying trans people access to womanhood? Do you truly believe that Black trans women are the reason that Black men treat so many of us like worthless? Do you really think that if we say trans women, y'all, we don't want nothing to do with you, we don't have the same struggles, you're fake, we're biological, do you really think that that's going to make Black women become more desirable, not within our own communities, but in society at large?
Okay,
I don't feel
what?
that.
Well, you know what?
That's
You
something
and
that's
can you hear me? You and I can have that conversation because I think that the space, I think that each person's space should be respected, and I think that each person should hold their own space. The overlap only goes but so far, and the agenda of a trans woman and the agenda of a woman, of a bio woman, of a woman, are very different. They're very, very different. What trans women are fighting for.
Can you tell me like how? Can you tell me in what ways? But sorry, continue, Tonya.
In what ways the agenda is different?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd love to know more about that.
What they want is different. What they want, just if you look at what trans women want.
Okay, so what do they want from your perspective? Because my understanding is that much of what we want is the same. So I would love to know, what your perspective is on what they want.
They want to be women. They want they want to be women. They want to they want, so basically a trans person, right, is born in a body that doesn't identify with how they feel on the inside. Everything that happens in their life from the moment that they realize that they're in the wrong body, or that they feel that they're in the wrong body, sends them on a trajectory. And being in a space where you are going along this path where, one, you have no uterus, two, you have a penis, three, you were born in a body that you feel doesn't represent what you feel is going on the inside. Four, there's some mental health things that come along with being born in the wrong body. 5, you start going on the journey to actualize yourself as a woman. 6, you go on the path or the journey to decide, do I keep my genitals? Do I take my genitals off? When do I start hormone therapy? So there are a whole lot of other things that go into being a trans woman, and where it is that you want to go. How is it that you want to be? First of all, a trans woman entering into a relationship, the disclosure is, I was born male. There's no underlying disclosure like that for women. The issues are different. The life paths are different. They're just different trajectories.
Okay.
They're different.
So, okay. Thanks for clearing that up with me.
Okay. But I will.
Thank you so much for talking with me.
I will say this before you go. Right.
Okay.
If trans women want to fight with women for
Just women.
for issues with women. If trans women want to align with women, and you see, so here we go. When you start saying that, now we have to add the prefix cis on woman to be able to,
Sure.
So you see what I'm saying? There are different agendas that exist. Where now you're expected for a person to hyphenate now. Because you have a hyphenation, now another person must hyphenate to differentiate. And so there's conflict, and one of the things that is my concern is, just like with the white feminist movement, how Black women were brought in for the numbers, and then when all was said and done, the agendas were different. And what ended up happening is Black women's concerns were never addressed. So when it comes to trans women, if trans women want to fight for equal rights and equality and all this other stuff, by all means fight. If you want to say, listen, I'm going to stand on your tile, or now your tile must be hyphenated, or this to be able to allow me into this space instead of a bilateral space, a parallel space where you have your space and you have your agenda, and we fight for the things that overlap. The issue is that, like some people were saying, Black women haven't gotten their piece of the pie. So if you want to fight for there to be more pie, that's one thing. But if you want to fight, oh, I'm the crust. No, you're the crust. No, I'm the crust. You're the cis crust. I'm the trans crust. When there's already just the crust. You know, there's already a thing that exists as woman. That's the XX chromosome. It's as simple as that. It's a biological definition. Now, when we start going into gender, because a person feels a certain way about a gender does not mean that usurps the biological definition of what a womb in is. Because just by the mere fact of the word womb in, a person who is not born with the XX is not a woman. Thank you so much for calling in. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk again on another broadcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So someone is saying, I still don't understand how, someone is saying, the comments are going so fast, someone is saying they don't see how a woman differs from a trans woman. And I'll say this, you know, and you're on the air live, but I just need you to hold for just one moment. Girls, ladies in the audience, I'm going to ask you this question. This question went around on Facebook. Ladies, at what age did you notice that men started looking at you sexually? What was your age? Type your age in the comments. I first started notice that men were looking at me sexually. I'd say I was around 13 years old when I started to develop hips, etc. It was about 13. Someone saying 6, 11, 11, 12, 12. Continue to put the ages up. You're on the air live with Tonya. Tell me your name.
Hi, my name is Sylvia.
Hi, Sylvia.
First time caller.
Hi. So what is your comment?
You say that again?
What's your comment?
Oh, well, first to answer your first question about when men started looking at me sexually, because I developed really early, so probably around 12 or 11.
Okay, so 12,
because
11.
I have a lot of estrogen, so.
Okay.
Yes.
So I see.
And then.
Hold on. I see people are putting in 10, 7, 9, 8. All right. Continue.
I guess it's so mad sometimes, like when we're forced to kind of, I guess that's why Chrissy is mad, because we're kind of forced to take up this mantle of protecting everybody and protecting people that identify as women or identify as Black, you know? And it's just kind of like it's a hard thing to.
I'm exhausted. I'm sorry. I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted. I'm sorry. I'm exhausted. I'm sorry. I'm exhausted. Because this is an exhausting conversation. I don't even understand how. I just don't understand. My mind just went to men. and how we don't see trans men demanding that men accept them as men. You don't have a dick. God damn it! Uterus fucking matters. You don't have a uterus. If you go to men and you say, accept me as a man, they'll say, listen, you don't have a dick. You don't have a dick. And I don't understand how it is being just pushed aside as nothing. A man will say you don't have a dick, period. That's it. You have no dick. How are you gonna be a man? You got no dick. I just, and then so people are like, It's like we are constantly being downgraded and making it seem like our parts don't matter, that our biology doesn't matter. Uterus, man, you're not a woman. You don't have a womb. Simple as that. You don't have XX chromosomes. It's as simple as that. I don't understand how this is the freaking 4-hour-long conversation. And then somebody's talking about female genital mutilation. You still have a womb. You still have processes on the inside that say now it is time to pump out progesterone and estrogen. Progesterone and estrogen. And it's like, I don't understand how you are coming to me and saying I am a woman and you are not. It's like, I don't have a problem fighting alongside anybody. Fight with me if you want to fight with me. But if you're going to say your body parts don't matter, your womb does not matter, your position where you hold the space in this life on this earth as the gatekeepers, women are the gatekeepers. I asked you all, how early in your life had you noticed that men started looking at you sexually? We had people putting in numbers as early as 4. The way that a girl is socialized is different from the way that a boy is socialized. Whether or not you have that feeling on the inside where you feel that you are a woman, you are still socialized in a different way. You still have different hormones that run through your system naturally. And testosterone is an aggressive hormone. The male mind is different. So even if you don't have even if you don't have a womb, there are glands that secrete the hormones that keep you female, that keep you feminine. Listen, I'm sorry, if we can't get into a space, how do you expect to fight alongside a person and you cannot enter into that relationship with respect? Put some respect on my womb. If it wasn't for women, none of us would be here. None of us. It takes one woman to carry one child for 9 months. This whole world can continue with just a handful of men. You have 1 million men and one woman, they will beat each other and themselves and kill her trying to get to her. You have 1 man and 1 million women and society can continue on. The female body is important to civilization. And it's like, how do you expect to fight with me when you cannot acknowledge that the space that women hold is as the gatekeepers for life? That matters. Womb matters. Estrogen, testosterone, femininity matters. The female mind matters. And it's like, don't expect to try to come along and fight in this fight with us when you won't even respect our humanity. All right. Hello, Knockouts. Tonya TKO here. And I'm doing this video real quick because it's just, there was something about the last discussion that we had that just kind of, you know how something settles in over you and it just doesn't feel right. You feel this irritation in your soul and you don't know why, right? All right. Hello. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. This is what we're going to do. We're going to have a live show tonight where we're going to be discussing this whole trans woman thing, right? And so what I want you all to do is I want you to invite whomever it is that you feel can speak on the subject, because we're going to have a call-in show tonight. And I'm going to open up the phone lines and allow people to call in and express themselves, because the question is, are trans women women? And the thing that just hasn't sat right on my spirit is that there's something very toxic masculine about the way trans women are forcing themselves on us, attempting to force us to acknowledge that they are what we are, thereby minimizing who it is that we are, and also minimizing themselves. It's, if you think about what a woman is, right? And for a person to say, "Oh, I am a woman," it is disrespectful to the sacred space that women hold in any civilization. Women hold a very sacred space. And I am not saying that trans people do not have a right to live and a right to exist. My issue is in them attempting to bogard the space that you are in and saying, "Oh, because I have this feeling, I am that thing that you are, and you must acknowledge me as that thing," though biologically there's no proof, there's no scientific proof, there's no scientific evidence. There is nothing that is replicated across the board. Like if you were to say, "Oh, this thing is a thing, this thing is Negroid, this thing is female," there's scientific, there's evidence based that every single person that identifies as that will have these characteristics. So besides a person having a feeling, and this person who has this feeling actually has, what experience do they have with actually being a woman and what being a woman feels like? Because you know how sometimes you go down a little rabbity hole. So I've been going down this rabbit hole of this thing called detransitioning. It's not respectful to a person's unique individual journey to say, "You know what, I am not this unique thing. I am this other thing which has scientific and biological markers," right? So I am not this unique thing. I am this thing that already exists, of which I have no scientific based evidence that I am a part of. That's my thing. And someone is saying womanhood biological, it's social. Being female is biological. I don't understand that sentence, so you might need to expound upon that, because a woman is a scientific label for an adult human female. That's what a woman is. A mare is an adult human. A mare is an adult female horse. A foal is a child horse. You know, a stud is a, what do they, the adult male horses are called studs, right? I believe that's what they call, but don't. All I'm saying is we have biological names that associate with animals in their different stage, right? Woman is not a social construct. Woman is not a social construct. Woman is a name. Tell me how, look, feminine can be a social construct. Feminine. But the word woman, show me how the word woman is a social construct. Show me how. Stallion is an adult male horse. Okay. Every species has females. Exactly. And the younger female, the younger male is called a certain thing. The one that has come into puberty is called another thing. This is what I'm saying, right? This is what I'm saying. Anybody who would attempt to call a trans woman a woman doesn't have respect for what a woman actually is. You don't have respect for womanhood. You don't have respect for the unique and special place that women hold in the continuation of every species. Women are the gatekeepers for human life. And so Matthew is saying at the end of the day, this entire convo and video is invalid, talking about a group of people, talking about a community that none are a part of. And so, listen, and I completely agree with that. That's why I'm doing this video early, so that you all can gather up all of the transgender people that you want to be a part of the conversation. I'm not going to force anybody to be a part of a conversation. If people want to be a part of the conversation, let them come. The phone lines will be open. So to say that the conversation is invalid because other people chose not to show up, we're still going to have the conversation whether people choose to show up or not. All right. You know what? We just had a little bit of technical difficulties, but we're back. And tonight we are having the great trans woman debate. So welcome in, everyone. Welcome in. Welcome in. Tonight we're going to be talking about transgender, the whole trans. We're going to talk about anything and everything transgender woman and women's spaces. That's what we're talking about tonight. All right. So listen, we're going to tell a little story, right? And then after I tell the story, my makeup and everything should be done, and we should be able to get right into the conversation. All right. So once upon a time, on a planet far, far away, there were these beings. And these beings were assigned with a really special duty. These beings were in charge of the creation of the face of the planet that they were on. And these beings were born with a tool that allowed them to do that. The tool was a lantern. And when the time was right in their lives, the lantern would be rubbed and the world as they knew it would change and shift according to these people. Let's call them the keepers of the lantern. That's what we'll call them. We'll call them calls for short. The phone lines are open, and we are talking trans tonight. So you're on the air live with Tonya. What's your name? I need you to turn down the volume on your computer. Yes. Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. So talk to us.
Okay, so because we all know that men normally get paid better than women. It's well documented.
Okay. So let's get to the crux of what it is that you're talking about. So you're talking about males who transitioned later versus earlier, and that there are some trans women who have never experienced male privilege. This is what you're saying?
Yes. Like myself, I transitioned when I was 8 years old. I began my transition at 8. And I am currently 26.
Okay.
So for me personally, and I'm also white, so I do have my white privilege and I do acknowledge that. So there is something that I have noticed with a lot of trans individuals, especially with, the workforce. Women already have difficulties with getting better jobs. Black women have an even more difficult time getting good jobs. And then you have trans women who have passing privilege and they can get decent jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have those who don't have passing privilege and or are also of color. A lot of people they have this image or this ideal that trans women are sexually deviant creatures because we're often found a lot in sex work.
Right, of course.
But
these are listen. So these are things that we know. The plight of a transgender person, let's just start with the transition. By the time you're 7, your subconscious mind is already formed. 7 through 9, your subconscious mind is already formed. So a person who is raised in maleness, even up to the age of 7, has already been indoctrinated into the ways of society and has already been regarded. Being born with a penis. Let's survey the audience. So the numbers are going to be 1. Oh no, actually I'm just going to ask for an age. So I'm going to ask the XX chromosome women out there, at what age do you remember being the first time that your parents told you to close your legs as you sat? What is the age that you remember the first time that your parents told you to close your legs? So I want to see those numbers come up, because even so much as being born with a penis, the body is regarded differently, because there isn't that. So people are putting up 5, 4, 6, 7, 5 or 6, right? Being born with a penis and changing a pamper from a child who has a penis is a lot different than changing the pamper of a child who has a vagina, because there is there's a delicacy that is involved with a child. I mean, if you think about it, it's right there. They defecate in the pamper, they urinate in the pamper, and parents already get the sense that there's a delicacy that is involved in the female child, because the female child is the holder of the lantern. So even just so much as being a boy child at 3, you are socialized different. A 4-month-old is socialized different just from even the changing of the pamper. So when you say that, so you can acknowledge your white privilege, but you won't acknowledge your male privilege, the fact that you were never told to sit like a lady, the fact that that it was never indoctrinated into you that you have this vagina between your legs, that is this precious thing that you have to guard at all costs. You were a person who had testicles hanging down low outside of your body, and there's a different indoctrination that happens sociologically, and there is privilege that exists. First of all, even having the amount of testosterone that pumps through the male body, and when you have the testosterone and the privilege that comes along with that, it's a completely different thing. Do you feel that you are a woman?
Yes, I do. I feel that, but I do acknowledge my genetics. I tell people all the time, scientifically, biologically, yes, I am male, but that is not my identity.
Okay.
And I do acknowledge that, because the science, it does not lie. But it's how I walk through life. Now, I completely acknowledge the fact that a bio woman's experience is completely, I wouldn't say completely different from mine, but there are a lot of differences. But there is a lot that we can also connect on. A lot of the times women are victimized, and so are trans women, and we a lot of the times find comfort in a lot of the same things.
So when you say that there are similarities, okay, there may be similarities, but I mean, there's overlap in many different areas. There's overlap between white people and black people. We all get up and go to work, and we all do these same things. However, having a safe space for black people to be able to discuss the things happening in the black community is a lot different than opening it up for other people who may have similar experience, who are inherently privileged. I think that there's a tremendous amount of disrespect and arrogance involved in stating that you are a thing which you could never really fully grasp the true meaning of that thing, without also having biologically the physical components as well as the psychological components that come along with having those physical components. Because there is, from the moment that your parents find out that you're a female, and you have that first of all, girl babies are born with all of their eggs, and from the time that your parents realize that you're female, you are regarded in a different way. They did an experiment, it was in this documentary, where they dressed boy babies and girl babies in the opposite clothing. And they had people, because you can't tell the difference between a girl baby and a boy baby. They had people come in and play with the boy babies and play with what they thought were girl babies. And the way that they played with the children was different. People went for the trucks, and they went for these types of things, and they began to develop the spatial part of the boys' minds with the different toys that they were playing with. And when they went to the girls, they were coddled, and they were treated very preciously and delicately, a delicate way that they do not treat boy babies. And so even if a person transitions at 8, by the time that they're 8, the subconscious mind is already formed. And there are things that are inherent in that socialization that have already created a great portion of who it is that you will grow to be.
So I'm going to give you, I guess, a little more backstory. So I started my public transition at 8. Behind the scenes, growing up, my mother, we always did the whole hair and makeup thing. She always worked in salons, and ever since I could assert myself, which was about 18-ish months, it was always about the more feminine aspect while also having a lot of male things pushed upon me, which once again, there are still a lot of things that, you know, I would never experience as a bio female. And once again, I do acknowledge that. But it's not like one day, you know, within a short amount of time that all of this just happened. It took a lot of time because, you know, it was the 90s and early 2000s, and nobody really knew much about any of this back then.
Okay. Well, you know what?
So
I want to keep the call short. We've been on for 15 minutes, and so we've gone 3 times the length that we would have preferably gone. I appreciate you calling in, and your point of view is important. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and I hope you have a fantastic evening.
You too. You too. And so this is why I say that transgender women are not women. They are something there's something special. They have a special journey, and I think it's actually belittling to them to try to force them to confine themselves to a category of woman when their journey is different than the journey of a woman. And so you're saying that there's too many terms, and I actually think that the terms actually help us be able to allow people. As a matter of fact, I wish that there were another gender term so that they didn't have to feel like they had to choose one of two. Ideally, what would exist is a society where people are honored for their unique experience and traversing through life. So that if a person was born male and they say, you know what, I feel it in my spirit that I am feminine, because being feminine and being a woman are different things. And so I just wish that there were a space for people to exist.
Yeah, which I absolutely agree.
All right. I think it's important that we acknowledge different people's journeys. You know, we have the privilege of not having to have that fight in our lives, and I think that it's important that we acknowledge people who do.
I just caught the last bit, but I'm transgender myself, and I was just calling in, and I wound up getting some information from a friend of mine, and I was like, well, you should look at her videos. I guess they had seen your video from a prior time, and a lot of the stuff that I've been noticing is that a lot of people have a problem with is labels.
Did you see the documentary Disclosure?
I didn't catch that one yet, no.
Okay, so
but I'm listening. Go ahead.
So in the documentary, there was a trans woman who was like, why should I have to disclose that I'm a trans woman? The fact that that there's this assumption of disclosure, you know, just adds to the fact that that there's something different about me than women. And I'm like, yes, there is something different about you than a biological woman.
Aren't we all born female in the womb?
No, we're not. The chromosomes, every in the development of a fetus, every fetus develops as female until that
that Y chromosome
a fetus cannot exist on its own outside the womb. A fetus is an incomplete human being. Once the human being is finished developing, it is then time for the human being, under ideal circumstances, once it's finished developing, is the between 10 and 16 weeks, the genitalia begins developing. So human fetuses look like little pig fetuses when they're first developing. That doesn't mean that we're meant to be pigs when we come outside of the womb. When the chromosomes, when our DNA starts doing what the DNA is supposed to do, then we are formed into how it is that we are supposed to be formed, and then we're able to come out of the womb, because we're talking about genitalia being formed at 10 weeks.
So what about intersex people? They have kind of both. So I don't think they even can we even classify them, because they kind of break the spectrum.
I don't know what the chromosomes for an intersex person are, but this conversation isn't about intersex people. This conversation is about trans women, and just like we just had that little conversation.
And
that
I know people who are intersex who fall under trans women, which is why I'm bringing it up.
This conversation is really about trans women feeling as if they are owed being in women's spaces, feeling as if they do not have to disclose, and it's actually disrespectful to the trans person's experience. The trans person transitioned into being whichever gender it is that they felt the internal calling. But the science does not show that their chromosomes, their sex organs does not show that their organs are of the gender that they say that they identify with. So there is a completely different journey that a trans person goes on than a person who is biologically that gender or that sex.
No, I'm not quite sure about that, but I will agree to disagree.
Which part are you not sure about? You're not sure about whether or not a transgender person's journey is different than the journey of a girl to a woman?
No, because for me, growing up, I did not experience a male journey or a transgender journey. I grew up as a girl. So I know certain people who also grew up that way. So
were you born with testicles? Were you born with testicles?
I'm sorry?
Were you born with testicles?
I was also born intersex, but this is why I'm trying to have the conversation.
So you're intersex and you're calling in to talk on the transgender issue. Were you born with testicles?
Yes.
You were born with testicles. So you were born in such a way that you had sperm cells. You were born in such a way that you had testosterone pumping through you. And you made a transition when you were how old?
I want to say 19.
19 what? Months?
19 years old.
You were 19 years, you had a penis up until 19 years old?
Oh, I'm sorry. You said penis? No, I had a penis until I was about 6. So, when I fully started transitioning and when I was about 19, I'm sorry.
Okay. So you were socialized, so you're saying that you were not socialized as a boy?
No.
So
I didn't even know the concept of what a trans person was.
You had a penis up until
intersex person was. I didn't know the concept.
I'm so sorry. I'm trying to understand. You had a penis up until 6, or you had a penis up until 19?
I had a penis until 6. When I started fully transitioning, and I was 19.
So at 6, what happened to your penis?
It was surgically removed.
At the age of 6?
Yes.
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that was legal. So you're saying that when you were born, your penis was damaged, but you still had your testicles remaining. And then when you became 6, your mother allowed you to make the decision to have your penis surgically removed and inverted into a vagina.
No, it wasn't necessarily. I don't want to put words in her mouth because I can't speak for her. She's going to speak for herself. But it was more of okay, this is what she's going up to.
So you're saying you have a uterus.
I'm sorry?
You're saying you have a uterus.
No. No.
How did you get your period without a uterus? I'm curious about this.
This is where it gets interesting. So, by me being intersex, my hormones fluctuated. So when I turned 12 and I started going through my hormones, I started bleeding.
When my
mother took, I'm sorry?
What was bleeding?
Go ahead.
What was bleeding?
My vaginal area.
So you had uterine lining that was coming out, or you just had blood coming out of you? Was it uterine lining? Was it menses?
It was like it was blood. It was blood.
So it was not menses. It was not uterine lining.
No, it was blood. it was straight blood.
All right. Thank you so much for calling in and sharing this story with us. We appreciate you taking the time to fill us in. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. You're on the air live with Tonya. What's your name?
Oh, hi.
Yeah, hi.
I would like to be referred to as anonymous.
Hold on. I'm sorry. I just need to address something in the comments. There is not a human being on earth who has a menstrual cycle who does not have a uterus. It's as simple as that. If you don't have a uterus, there's no uterine lining. We all know what menstruation is. Menses is the breakdown of the uterine lining where no implantation into the uterus occurs. And menses is not blood. It's a mixture of fluid and the uterine lining that was built there to be able to feed the attached embryo. If you do not have a uterus, you do not menstruate. It's as simple as that. If there's a person who's experiencing some sort of blood or phantom blood and all of that, listen, there are people without limbs that feel phantom limbs moving. So I cannot attest to anybody's state of mental health or wellness, but I know for a damn fact, and if there's anybody out there who's confused about it, you better go pick up a biology book. If you don't have a uterus, there's no uterine lining to break down at the end of every 28 days. And if there's something that is bleeding from your body, then you need to go see a doctor ASAP, because menses is about more than just having hormones. There has to be a uterus there for the uterine lining to break down from. So you could come here and you could puff up my ear with whatever it is that you want to puff up my ear with. But I'm going to tell you this right now: if there's no uterus, there ain't no menstruation. It's as simple as that. So go ahead. I'm sorry, dear. I just needed to clear that up. Listen, there are a lot of people who want all different types of attention, and they take advantage of people who don't have the know-how or don't have the inside information to be able to call them out on it. But when there's a person who calls in and says that at 6 years old, their mother took them to have their penis chopped off, we all have to start wondering what the hell. And then talking about the finishing of the transition happened at 19. So at 6, you had your penis chopped off. So what, you just had no penis and 2 balls hanging down low till you were 19, and then your period was coming down in between the balls, but it wasn't a period, it was blood. Come on. You're on the air live with Tonya. What's your name?
Hello, Tonya. This is Nadine calling. How are you?
Your name is Nadine?
Nadine, yes. I've called once 2 months ago.
Okay, hi Nadine. So come with it now.
Hi.
Now it's after midnight,
All
and
right.
I can already tell the craziness
now
hasn't
the
begun.
time. Yeah. I know you're tired. I know you're mad. You're sweating. You're tired. You need to go.
Not
Okay,
sweating.
let me end this on
I'm
a
just
cute note.
moist.
All right.
Go ahead.
All right. So, I am a gay person. Okay. I'm 24 years old. I just turned 24 years old. And when did I realize that I was gay? Well, I realized maybe around 13 or 12, but I was always staring at men real hard around maybe 7 years old. So I've had that attraction in me from a very young age. I just didn't know what it was. I know for sure that I am 100% gay and I'm not attracted to vagina.
Okay.
Yeah. So the reason I said all of that is gay men, Okay, one thing, gay men are not attracted to, usually, the majority, I should say, we are not attracted to trans women.
So what is your
What I
comment? How
all
does
right.
this relate to
Go ahead.
transgender? Go ahead, please.
All right, so this is related to transgender because a transgender woman is it's too close to a natural born, or AKA a cisgender woman. A cisgender woman is just simple, is whatever the doctor wrote on the birth certificate, that's what you identify with. That's what cisgender is.
Hold on.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Hold on. So are you calling in
Go
on
ahead.
my airwaves to tell me that because you're not attracted to a transgender woman, that person is a woman? Is that what you're doing?
That's what it feels like to gay men. That's what it feels like to gay men.
I don't see how this
Of course, there
relates
are some that can tolerate it.
Excuse me. Hello?
Go ahead.
I'm not really sure how a man's opinion of whether or not another XY chromosomer is a woman has any bearing in this conversation. So one XY chromosomer is looking at another XY chromosomer and saying because you have gotten a certain amount of surgeries or take a certain amount of hormones that you are a woman now. I don't really see how this relates, because in the world of gay male sex, ain't nobody in there getting pregnant. So I don't expect for you to have any appreciation for the uterus. So I want you to make this conversation make sense, please.
Right. All right. So here I go. I have full appreciation to the uterus, and the thing with the attraction towards transgender women is because they are too close to a woman. They look like a woman. If I'm a gay man, I like a gay man.
But a transgender woman is not a woman. So a transgender woman is a person who's had a lot of surgeries.
It's about the face too.
Right, but
it's about the whole body.
They've gotten surgeries and are taking hormones to be able to have those female-esque features. So what is the point?
Right. So when all that goes through and the hormones kick in and hormone blockers and all that, that is pretty much a female. And some females get their periods late. A lot of females can get pregnant. So I don't think pregnancy can be just boxed into the identifier.
You know something? I'm sorry. Listen, right? Please do not make me lose it on you on the phone this evening, because I'm confused as to why a person with a penis is calling in to help me define what female is. I don't see it. I don't see how you, in all of your male wisdom, are calling in to talk to a woman about what a woman is. Make this make sense, Nadine.
All right.
I want to know, how does your male opinion have any bearing in this conversation?
Because I'm on the LGBTQ spectrum.
Just because you're on the LGBTQ, you're a man. And part of the contention of this conversation is the fact that there are XY people, XY chromosomers, who take a bunch of hormones and then in their misogyny are trying to force their male opinion onto us, saying that they are women because they feel like women. And so now I have a person who has a doggone penis and his XY chromosomes coming onto my airwaves to tell me what he feels a woman is. Goddamn no. Not today, bro. Not today. Not today. I don't understand this. All right, so listen, I have learned so much from this conversation. I've learned a lot. You can think that you know what a thing is, but that's your arrogance making you feel that you think that you know what a thing is because of what exists on the outside. There is a psychological connection, there is a spiritual connection that a woman has to her womb. It's a part of who it is that you are as woman. And so it's like you can think that you know what a thing is, but you can really only pantomime it. You cannot be a thing that you do not have the biological structure to be. Listen, there are things that the male person is tasked with when coming into contact with a woman. You get socialized very early on to know that you are stronger. You get socialized very early on to know that you are the protector of women. You protect girls. You get socialized to know that you have to control your strength. You have to control your temper. And I think that when people don't give respect to the other genders, we have things like a trans woman going into an MMA fight with a biological woman and cracking her cranium. Because this person is like, oh, I'm a woman. I'm trans. I feel like a woman. And then you go in and you pulverize a biological woman. You crack her cranium. And she leaves that match on a goddamn stretcher. Because a person who was born male, who however it is, in whatever psychosis exists inside of their mind, they felt that there was no difference between them and the bio female. So they went in there and cracked her cranium, and she had to be carried out on a damn stretcher from the match. So it's in this person's arrogance that they say, oh, well, I'm a woman. I should be able to do this. I should be able to get into the ring with this woman. What's the difference? Even though I'm 6'4", because the gatekeepers of life, women, I don't think that XY chromosomers do it to be mean. I think that there is really truly a part of them on the inside that truly really desires and wishes that they were a woman. But they know that they're physically stronger than, and then they'll make up their excuses. Oh, well, I don't really work out. You know, I'm scrawny. I'm not really that athletic anyway. But the muscle fibers are different. The muscle fibers are different. And then you enter into these situations where you don't respect a person's femaleness. And there's no instinct inside of you to protect women because you feel that you are a woman. And this is where it becomes dangerous, where people feel that they are entitled to the space of biological women because they have the feeling on the inside that they're a woman. I feel like I'm a woman, so therefore I'm entitled to the space that has been relegated for biological women. And the skeletal system is different, the brain is different, the hormones that are naturally pumped through are different. And it's like, it matters. Last night, things just descended into madness. It just descended into madness. It descended into madness. Now this morning, people who didn't bring their asses over to the show are now coming out and they're calling me transphobic. All right, so back to back. You're on the air live with Tonya. What's your name?
Talia.
Hi, Talia. So talk to us. What is your comment today? I need you to turn down your computer in the background and just listen to me through the phone because there's a delay. So you have to turn down your computer so you're not confused.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So basically, I used to watch you years ago. You actually had a video with me about me a long time ago. You had posted a video. And it was about basically, you know, someone writing to you about their story, how they were a young kid and they wanted to transition. Do you remember this?
No, I don't. But you can say more so I can.
Okay, so it was about maybe 2000 and maybe 10. I had wrote you and I told you that I was from the suburbs of Chicago and I was a young kid who was struggling with identity and who I wanted to be in things. And you made a video and you read the letter, you know, out loud. And, you know, it was a video. About maybe, you know, 2010.
Okay.
You don't remember at all? I don't know.
You know, I remember in 2010, I spoke about the transgender issue, but I remember doing a video about a trans man. But I don't.
This one was way before you ever spoke. It was like way before all this commotion with the transgender stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This was like years and years and years ago, because I would always watch your videos because I always admired you.
Okay.
And so, you know, I would watch them, and I felt confided. I felt I could express myself and talk to you and communicate with you and send you my letter, and then you made a video about it.
Okay.
But I guess you don't remember. But I just want to simply say that I finally found you again, and I'm happy to see that you're still here and things. And I wanted to tell you that from a transgender perspective, I wanted to tell you that, listen, we don't have all the answers ourselves. We don't know completely what this means to us. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like no matter what, this is the biggest form of flattery to a woman, you know, to females. I think that you guys are amazing, powerful. You know what I'm saying? That a person of the opposite gender would transition to become a woman. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of the biggest forms of flattery. And I would never want a female to ever feel like, okay, like, it's, you know, kind of shady, because it's like, you know, it's admiration. You know what I mean?
I hear what you're saying. I mean, the white people on Instagram who are darkening their skin and braiding their hair so it could be fluffy, and who are blackfishing, I mean, they may say that that's a form of flattery that we should accept too. So go ahead.
Yeah, but then when you were saying that about the, you know, am I transphobic? I can see, you know, in your face as you're, you know, asking these questions like about this, that you're not really here for it. I can see it. So it's kind of like, I feel like you know that you are transphobic. And I get it. You may not understand it. It's a lot of commotion. It's a lot of stuff people are, you know, identifying. And I get you're about the truth and everything like that. But I just feel like you just let people be themselves. And just, you may not understand everything. There's nothing that we can tell you that will make you completely understand why this is our path. There's nothing that we can tell you. There's no way we can express it. Just let us have that. Just respect us in our life, and just simply her, she. It's just like it won't kill someone to do that. We're not bottoms, we're just trying to live our lives. You know what I mean? And the person that said something before, the transgender woman, you know, like you said, we don't know all the answers. We don't know everything. Everyone has a different perspective of transgender. But all I can simply tell you is it is an experience that we cannot explain to you, that only we know, and all we can ask for is you to tolerate that and just accept us.
Okay.
What's so difficult about that? Allow us to live our lives.
So you feel that I am transphobic. So help me understand what your definition of transphobic is, so that I can hold that up against who it is that I can examine myself to be. What's your definition of transphobic?
Well, I would say that I can tell, when I look at you, I can tell that you wouldn't accept it, but you would tolerate it. And that's all we can ask for. I would say that it's not fear that you have, but I can tell that you're not here for it. That you don't,
I'm not here, you know, for what?
That you're very, right now you're questioning me in a way that's kind of like, oh, well, what does this mean? Or, oh, well, you just said that this is this, you know, it's kind of like you're trying to catch us up in our not being real about ourselves or something.
Listen, if you'd like to have a conversation with me, then we can converse. I asked you, you called me transphobic. I'm asking you, what do you feel what's your definition of transphobic, and where do you see that I meet up with the definition of transphobic? So let's start with your definition of transphobic.
My definition of transphobic would be to basically be against it, not accept us, you know, not call us our name, you know, or, you know, anything to respect us, to you know, even ask the question. The fact that you're asking the question, am I trans, and that you know that there lies some transphobia there. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Well, so let's explore that a little bit. So you said that you feel that I do not respect transgender people and do not feel that transgender people should exist. And that's where you feel the transphobia, and you feel that asking the question is indicative of there being transphobia. Is this what your stance is?
No, my stance is that I can feel that you're trying, like I said, you're trying to basically, trying to connect the dots on what does this mean? What does this mean? It's like, it's not coming from a loving place. It's not coming from a Tonya TKO loving place. It's coming from detect and analyze type of place. Like you have to dissect to see if you're okay with it. That's where it's coming from. The stance and everything. That's what I'm feeling.
All right, you sat here on my airwaves and told me that I need to love myself more because I'm advocating for women being able to hold the space that is important. There is no transgender person who has come onto this earth who didn't pass through the keeper of the womb. There's no transgender person who doesn't owe their life and ability to be on this earth to the person who held the womb that held them and pushed them successfully into this world.
Well, absolutely. But are we denying that by being ourselves?
Right. So tell me where my lack of self-love comes in, because I'm advocating for the important role. Yes, let me hear this. I'm listening.
Your lack of self-love is the fact that you basically said that, okay, well, when things are being taken away and things are changing as far as gender and maxi pads and all these things are changing, you mentioned that right there lets me know. You know what I'm saying? That there's a problem.
You know what? Listen, no funding should be taken away from a women's battered shelter because a transgender person.
But why can't we have funding? Why can't we step up? We're a community of people too.
Right. You know what? Listen. You know what? Why don't you do this? Why don't you advocate with a transgender group to be able to get battered shelter for transgender women? Get a black trans rocks. Get specific. Get what it is that you need.
They are doing
All
stuff
right.
like that.
All right.
But why can't we feel included when we appreciate you guys the most?
You're not entitled.
Why can't black women be included when we appreciate black women the most?
You know what? I've had to put you on mute. Because you have the audacity to come here and talk to me about what it is that transgender women deserve. You do not deserve to be in the space of biological women. You don't deserve, you're not entitled to be there. You biologically, you are, listen, so then where is the lack of self-love coming from, the claim? Because you're projecting your own lack of self-love onto me.
Listen, Tonya, I already created a space where I simply said, listen.
So then you know what? Call your people out. Listen, I've had to put you on mute again. Call your people out. When you see that there are trans feminine people who are actively advocating for the erasure of the womb holders, call them out. Don't come to me and talk about how I don't love myself. Go talk to those people and talk to them about how they don't love themselves because they don't feel that there's a difference between a person who was born with testicles.
If you love yourself, you would respond from a place of love and not a place of argument.
You know what? Unfortunately, you don't understand what real love looks like. You don't understand what it looks like.
Girl, unfortunately, fuck you. And you don't even have a man or anything going on with your motherfucking life. You're sitting there talking about a group of people, and you're sitting there talking about a group of people that you don't understand. Ain't nobody else fighting for you guys. The black man ain't fighting for you.
Keep saying it.
So it is the black trans women that are stepping up to say something about your ass, and for you not to accept us is rude. How dare you?
Go ahead.
The men aren't looking for you. The men are not looking for black women, et cetera, et cetera. But I love black women, and we love them. That we decided to become that. And you have a nerve to be sitting at us. It was without appreciation. That's wrong. We love you. We're the only ones. We're showing you that we love you because we admire you so much that we're sitting here dressed like this. And you have to predict you have to sit there and debate if you're going to be on my side or not. When nobody else is standing for you, the black man ain't stuffing up for you. Nobody is, but we are. We will fight for you. I will fight for a black woman, all kinds of stuff. I came out of one. I'm never saying that I will become a full-fledged female. I'm not saying that's impossible. I give you respect for that. But let us have ours because ain't nobody fighting for you but us.
Right. So you feel so you
That's
feel
it.
no, listen, you said fuck me, and then you went on to how black men don't want us and how we must have you all in our spaces when you come from the place of fuck you and nobody wants you.
I just
But
said
you
fuck you
but
because
you
it's like it's such a
right,
struggle
right.
to have this conversation with you.
Right,
It's
because
like you
the
coming from a place of
the
you
struggle
trying to
comes
argue
from
with
within
me.
you.
And that's all I'm trying to tell you is that all I'm just trying to tell you is at the end of the day, right or wrong, is anybody else fighting for black women? Yes or no?
Yes.
Who is fighting for black women besides other black women? Black men ain't doing it. White men ain't doing it. White women ain't doing it.
Right.
But but guess what? The LGBT community,
now I get
the gay men that you confide in as friends, they stick up for you. The transgender women, they stick up for you. We got your back.
Right. So now I understand. Now I understand. Now I understand. So you feel that because black women are the most downtrodden and you feel that nobody else is fighting for the black women, that those dumbass bitches should allow trans women to be in the fight because don't know fucking anybody else wants them.
I'm black and my family
right.
is all black.
Right. Because
so
because you
like
because
black,
because
I'm,
you listen, listen. You know, I don't know. I've had to put you on mute again because you're going off in your full masculine glory. I don't know if there's anybody out there who saw Hamilton when King, I believe it was it King James came out and started singing, I love you so much that I'll send my battalion to kill your friends and family. So when this transgender person on the line is talking about how much they quote unquote love black women, but then going to talk about fuck you, don't nobody else want you, so you might as well accept us and accept us and crouching upon your space. That's the full crux of it right there. Listen, thank you so much for calling in. It was great to be able to have you to expose yourself and the real deal on the line. Thank you. You don't love me because
you did nothing but
right. Listen, I had to cut that person off. It's just too much. All right.